Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video in my 2025 challenge where I'm trying to see and photograph 250 birds in the state of Massachusetts this year. It's been a little while since I put out one of these videos. In fact, it'll be a whole month since my last video when this one comes out. There's a couple reasons for that. First of all, late March does tend to be a slow time of year, so I was actually planning to take a little break at that time. I also had a week-long trip to Panama, which was really great. It was a work trip, but I did have the chance to do birding at the end of the trip. And in fact, if you've been following the channel, you'll have seen a couple of videos come out from Panama the last 2 weeks. I hope you've been enjoying those. But this week it's back to Massachusetts, and today I'm at Plum Island again. It's a cold, raw, windy day. The weather here in Massachusetts has really been terrible throughout the month of April, but I'm not here for general birding. I'm actually here chasing a specific bird that I'm looking for that's been seen here the last couple of days. So we'll get to that in a moment. But the other thing I'm going to do in this video is just catch you up on all the birds that I have seen over the past month. So there's going to be at least 15 new birds in this video to get through. So I want to jump right into that. So let's start out with a really good one, and that is an American Bittern that I saw just a few days ago on my home patch. So that was pretty exciting. So I was at work when I heard that the American Bittern had been seen at Horn Pond. I was able to come down at lunchtime and look for it. When I first arrived at the location, the bird was not being seen, but it had been seen quite recently. That's often the case when you're chasing a bird. But I settled in and just waited it out. Took about 20 minutes of waiting before the bird started becoming active again. First spotted it in this dense shrubbery here, and was a little worried that was the only look that I was going to get. But then the bird, as you can see, just wandered right out from that shrub and walked out into the open. So that was really great. I ended up getting what I think are the best looks ever that I've had of this species that I can recall, certainly in terms of sort of extended viewing from close range. So that was really cool, and obviously a new one for the 250 bird challenge. Okay, so that was just a few days ago, but what I'm going to do now is go back and go through birds more or less in chronological order that I've seen. So the next one I want to show you is a eastern bluebird that showed up at the community gardens at Horn Pond. This is a regular species in Massachusetts, pretty much year-round now. They can be found in the winter, but this was my first sighting of the year. Perched up, not the best viewing conditions, but a decent look at this nice bird. One day I'd really like to get some really high quality video of eastern bluebird for the channel, but this will have to do for the year list. Then another one that showed up a few weeks ago was a fish crow, and it was perched up in a tree and fortunately calling, as you can hear, because fish crows are pretty much identical to American crows, but the vocalizations are quite different. They have kind of an almost comical, cartoonish quality to it to my ears. So this guy was going off for a while, so no doubt about the ID on this one. And another new bird for the list is green-winged teal. We've gotten a lot of ducks on the list this year, and it's just a few left to pick up. So green-winged teal is a pretty common bird in spring migration and early spring in Massachusetts, so no surprises there. They're beautiful birds, and probably get some even better footage at some point during the year, but these guys were nice to see. Okay, so before we go through any more of the birds that I've seen over the past month or so, let's go and look for the bird that I'm chasing here at Plum Island. So this is a shorebird called an American Golden-Plover. and they are relatively rare in Massachusetts. They're particularly rare in the spring, so this is a nice opportunity to get this one on the list. I haven't actually seen one in Massachusetts for a few years, so this is going to be a nice one if we can find it. So it's in an area called the Salt Pans, which is just about a half a mile from where I'm parked here, so let's go see if we can find it. So the salt pans are these very shallow areas of brackish water right along the road, and they attract all sorts of shorebirds and ducks throughout the year. When I arrived at this salt pan, the first thing I noticed was a very large flock of green-winged teal. I counted around 100 teal in this flock, and that may be the largest single flock of green-winged teal that I've ever seen. After a few minutes, I noticed a small shorebird standing by itself, and that did turn out to be my target, the American Golden-Plover. So the American Golden-Plover looks somewhat like the black-bellied plover, which is much more common in Massachusetts, but the bill is a little bit more delicate, and it is a tricky ID. Many people have already ID'd this bird, so I'm pretty comfortable with it. Okay, that was great. We found the American Plover right away, got it on the list, and we can count the day as a success now. So I'm going to keep looking for birds here at Plum Island and show you anything else that I do see today. Might get a few other new birds here, but for now, let's go back to the chronological list of birds that I've seen. So the next bird that I want to show is Eastern Phoebe. Eastern phoebes are always a very welcome sight in early spring, the first flycatcher that shows up, and did have a couple of these guys pumping their tails and flitting around in the thick brush, again at my home patch at Horn Pond. And the next bird after that is a really beautiful one, the black-crowned night heron. Again, my home patch, this is Horn Pond, which has become, the last few years, a really great spot to see night heron pretty much all season long from spring through the end of summer. These guys have been perched up in willow trees for the last couple of days, giving, decent looks, but not great looks. But then I was able to spot one that was perched lower down and get this much nicer footage here. Really beautiful birds, the way they have that black and white plumage with sort of the long flowing plumes. Another nice spring arrival was this osprey, which has been flying around and hunting in the various pools at Horn Pond. And I'd gotten some mediocre flight shots of it, which were countable, but at some point I finally found it perched up, and it stayed around long enough for me to get some decent close-up footage. You can see that the weather is not great, cloudy skies in these videos, but at least I'm able to see the birds and get them on the list. All right, and the next bird is another very welcome arrival, the first migrating warbler of the spring to show up, which is pine warbler. They nest at Horn Pond, and they always show up pretty early. I thought this one was especially early, showing up actually, I think on April 7th or something like that. That's a real early date, but didn't get any video of it, but did get a couple of decent photos, which will be good enough to count. I'll try to get some better photos and video of pine warbler during the year, but this is good enough for now. Okay, back here at Plum Island, the weather is not improving. It is raining a little bit harder now, and just not real pleasant to be out of the vehicle. But while driving along the road south of the main pans, I did have a great egret right along the road. So I stopped and was able to film that from the comfort of my car, which is always nice. So great egret is another nice new one for the year. Shortly after seeing the great egret, I came across this merlin perched directly over the road. I tried to photograph it from inside my car, but it just wasn't possible because of the angle. So I very carefully opened the car door and managed to get this footage. I felt fortunate that it didn't fly away, as in my experience, opening a car door and getting out has a high probability of spooking a bird. This actually completes the trifecta of Massachusetts falcons for the year, as peregrine falcon is already on the list and American kestrel will be added later in this video. Okay, so getting back to the list of birds that I've seen over the past few weeks, the next one that I have a few photographs of is ruby-crowned kinglet. This is going to become a common migrant over the next few weeks, I think, going into early May, so I'll probably get some additional photos of this one, but these are good enough to count, so let's get it on the list. Okay, and the next bird to show you is this pied-billed grebe, which showed up at my home patch. This little guy was right next to the path, and I was able to get some footage I was very happy with this time. I think this might be the best video I've ever gotten of this species. I always like seeing pied-billed grebes. They're cute little birds. He was kind of swimming around. It looked like he couldn't decide what he wanted to do next. Okay, the next one is one that I was pretty excited about. This is a Bonaparte's gull that showed up at my home patch on the main pond, right on Horn Pond. Bonaparte's gull is a relatively common gull in Massachusetts, but you normally just see it along the coast, and it's actually pretty uncommon inland. So in fact, this Bonaparte's gull sighting was a new life bird for me for my home patch. So this was number 206 for me at Horn Pond, so that was pretty exciting. I know the footage is not good. The bird was not very close, but still a good one, and we'll put it on the list. Okay, so I've been slowly working my way south down the island in these rainy conditions, pretty much just birding from the car. Haven't seen that many birds, but I did just pick up another new one for the year, which is northern shoveler. These northern shovelers are in Stage Island Pool, which is a relatively large body of fresh water at the south end of Plum Island. It often holds many good birds. I find that the birds in Stage Island Pool are often really far away, so it's a bit of a frustrating location. The places that you can view from are generally quite a distance away from where the good birds are, but today the northern shovelers are right along the road, so the footage is not too bad. So, the new duck species for the year, we certainly have a lot of ducks so far this year. Okay, so we are getting pretty close to caught up on the species that I've already seen in March. since the last video. I actually have 3 more species I want to show you that I've seen at Horn Pond Mountain. So this is the mountainside. It's a fairly open, scrubby area, nice habitat that picks up some different birds than the ones you see along the water areas. I actually went over to the mountainside to look for field sparrows, which are an early spring arrival. They breed there and can be seen on the mountainside all spring and summer. And I was able to find one field sparrow that was pretty cooperative and was perched up pretty close to me. And while I was on the mountainside, I happened to catch a common raven that was perched up on one of the power line poles. I've seen a lot of ravens this year. They're pretty hard to photograph. Often I have to settle for a flight shot, but I was able to get this one perched, and he did let off one nice caw for me. And one more bird from the Horn Pond Mountain is this American kestrel, which I found perched on a power line. American kestrels are migrating through now in pretty good numbers in Massachusetts, and Horn Pond Mountain is generally a pretty good place to spot them. They've actually bred there a few times over the years, but to my knowledge, not in the last 5 to 7 years. So maybe someday we'll get them breeding there again. That would be fun. Okay, so after seeing the shovelers, I continued to drive south to the south end of Plum Island to the Sandy Point State Reservation. I then got out and checked the beach for piping plovers. I noticed that they have closed the beach now for the piping plover breeding season. They do that every year to protect them so that they can nest on the beach without being disturbed. Wasn't able to see any piping plovers today, but I'm sure I'm going to get those fairly soon, as they are common once they arrive and can be seen pretty easily on the beaches here. Okay, so I think I'm going to wrap this video up here. Hope you've enjoyed seeing the new additions to the Massachusetts year list. Just a note, on the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have another video from my trip to Panama next week, but then the week after that, I'll come back with another video from Massachusetts for the 250 bird challenge. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.